anytime anybody calls me and they say that they got a puppy and they have kids, I'll always work with the dog. If somebody calls me and they say, I want to get a puppy, and I start asking them questions, and they say that they have kids, I tell them the same thing. It's a pat answer. Why in the world do you want to get a puppy? Are you nuts? Why do you want a high-maintenance pet like a dog or a bird? It's foolish. It's foolish. I try and talk them out of it. That's why you don't hear me talking about clients that, I'm like, oh, the dog's going home. They have, he's got there's some kids in the house, because I try and talk them out of it. Most of my clients don't have kids. It's the truth. I try and talk people out of it. Now, if you have a dog or you have a puppy in the house, it's not impossible that you gain control of the dog and things go okay with the dog and your kids. That's totally possible. But you have to deal with the dog and the kids differently than society tells you, or what you think. What you think is wrong. Our society is screwed up with dogs. People are told the wrong thing. Now, if I don't have children. Friends of mine that are dog trainers have children. And they deal with it how I suggest everybody else deals with it, and that's that the kids should not be interacting with the dog. It should be limited, and that's how it was when I was a kid and my dad was training dogs. I never saw training the puppy at an early age because my dad would be out in the back at 5 in the morning. And that's when he would work with puppies. He would never be like, I'm going to work with the puppy. Come on outside, Peter. There was a point where that happened, but it was when the dog was being stable like this. And then my dad would use me as a distraction, so the dog's sitting, and he'd say, Peter, walk by Duke or Susie or whoever, and I'd walk by the dog like this, and the dog stays in the sit position or whatever, the dog's being stable. Then at a point, after the dog's being real stable, my dad might say, well, after weeks of just doing that, weeks, maybe a month and a half, he'd say, okay, now the dog's totally calm. Now I want you to just go over and pet the dog, and if I tell you to stop petting the dog, stop petting the dog. So if the dog's like this, good. That would be success. But if I went over and the dog acted a little excited, I'd say, no, just back off. Get over here, Peter. Real controlling. That's the way it has to be. This notion that your kid is supposed to interact with your dog when it's excited, you're being foolish. Everybody that's a dog trainer that has kids, one of my friends in, where is she? North Carolina or something like that. She's got a little kid, maybe 4 now. I've been watching she's got like 6 dogs. The kid's great around the dogs because at no time did I ever see in any video her sending the dog or the kid over to pet a dog that wasn't totally calm like this. She works with the dog, getting it trained so it's rock solid. Then she brings the kid in. You can't train a dog with a kid running around the yard. My dad either did it early in the morning or he took it up to this Tillman school. He did a lot of training at Tillman school. I remember we were sledding or something, and my dad was working with the dog up at Tillman school, and somebody said, that's a police officer. He's training a police dog. And I said, no, that's my father. And at no time, I remember one time we went up and we were talking to my dad. I wanted to prove that it was my dad. They said, no, that's not your dad. I said, yeah, it is. So I walked up. He said, yeah, what do you want, Pete? I said, he goes, I'm working with the dog. You kids need to get out of here. This is nonsense. If your kids are petting a dog that isn't calm like this, by the way, this is the most hyperactive dog I've ever known. If he wasn't in work mode, he doesn't stop moving. This is a dog from hunting stock that a professional hunting guide would use. He never gets tired. If a kid would, no kid ever pet this dog, okay? When I was in Brooklyn with him and they tried to pet him, I said, no. And in my head, I'm like, get the fuck out of here, kid. So he's great around kids. He's great around adults because I didn't let adults pet him. This is a totally friendly dog that minds his own fucking business, that isn't looking around on the street. Oh, look, there's somebody. They're going to give me attention. Unearned affection is the worst thing you can do for your dog. If you have kids in the house and those kids are just petting the dog when it's excited or sneaking food under the table, you're going to have a time bomb on your hand. You're going to have a time bomb on your hands. It's not what you think. It's about making the dog as calm as possible. The notion, and I'm going to do a video about this later, that a dog that's real energetic like this guy, who you may see jumping around, real active, that's a happy dog, that's absurd. He's excited. He's hyperactive. We're talking about the energy level, not his emotional state. A dog, what emotional state are you fucking talking about? His brain is about the size of a Myers lemon. You think that this dog loves me? No, he likes me a lot. He likes me a lot. He's trained with conditioned commands, and we've sort of like over time, these instinctual things that the dog would be doing isn't doing it. He isn't jumping on kids if I have him around kids. He isn't jumping on adults. This is terrible for dogs. We have, no, sit. We have so many dogs in this country that die every year. 4 million dogs because of improper training or no training at all. And 4 million dogs, or 4 million kids are going to get bit by a perfectly normal dog like this that was dealt with in an early age improperly. There's dogs out on the street, okay? They're walking on the street. Tonka just saw them. Tonka's not flipping out. He's concentrating on me. He's looking for some direction. If I had a kid, I would do it like my dad did it. A good way to do it is train the dog, all right? Get the dog doing one thing like the down position. And once the dog's really rock solid working with you, then you could bring the kid in. But you want to make sure that the dog is doing the down position properly. It needs to be going straight, not off to the side. So if it's going off to the side, it's not ready to bring the kid in. And if the dog won't stay stable in the down position for you, if you can't walk into another room and leave the dog, don't be trying to excite it using your kid to train it. You haven't done enough yard work with the dog. The dog's not functioning for you, so you're going to make it more excited. And not only are you going to make it excited, like say he was a puppy, and I had a kid, and he pulls off of his mark. He's in the down position. He gets up. Then he gets something when he touches the kid. He got something. Kids don't give any negativity to the dog. They just cause excitement by doing like this, staring in the dog's eyes, smiling. They're at a lower level. They cause excitement. So it's that excitement that just gets dogs into trouble. So if you could get the dog used to being at sit, right? And you get the dog used to you moving around, you know, and you can walk in another room or wherever and the dog stays in the sit position, and you do this for a long period of time. I'm not talking about a short period of time. It's a dog. It takes a certain amount of training. If you could do that for a month or something, then you might bring the kid in and start doing one of these where the dog's sitting and you watch the dog. You know, and you might even tell the dog, no. And the kid walks by and you say, no, sit. Because you know that it's going to excite the dog. And then the kid walks by, right? That would be successful. But you don't even want to do that until you have control of the dog. Because if the dog jumps off and touches the kid, it got something. One, it was disobedient. It was totally disobedient. So when the dog's disobedient, it's a lack of respect. It doesn't respect you because you haven't dealt with it properly, or it's been lack of training. That's disobedient. I said sit, Tonk. So, do you understand? You have to keep conditioning the dog, making sure that the dog knows it needs to be calm. And if there's anything that causes the dog excitement, like your kid, you want to limit it as much as possible until you get the dog fully trained. Work the dog in the down position, use walls. Let's go take Tonka over by a wall and I'll show you what I mean. You can get the dog going straight. So if Tonka is smashed in here next to me on the wall, he's got to have a tendency to go straight. Right? So you do that with the puppy, making sure that you're getting success. You have to build on success. If the dog just is consistently doing it wrong and interacting with your kid improper, it's going to be a mess. Tonka, down. No, down. Right? So if he's here, say he's not here. Say let's put him out here, okay? And I'll show you what else I mean. You use this to make sure that the dog's going straight. Here. And say I'm in my house with my kid that I don't have, my fantasy kid. Not a fantasy. It's more difficult. It's just more difficult with the dog, and you have kids. So Tonka's in the down position, and I get him real stable to where he knows that he's not supposed to get up. By circling the dog, he sees me moving, right? And I get him used to this, and he can do it real good. Same thing. Maybe this is after a month or two, and I know he's real stable, and I can go in another room, and he stays in the down position. Tonka, sit. No, sit. Then maybe I would bring the kid in. I'm just saying the down position, if your dog does down and does it real good, you've worked down real good by yourself, it could be sit. Be the same thing. You could say sit, right? You do this for a long period of time. And then you bring the kid, and the kid might be 10 or 15 feet away. You know it's going to cause visual excitement because you already screwed up letting the dog interact with the dog, or the kid interact with the dog inappropriately. So it sees the kid. It thinks it's going to get something. These dogs that are dealt with this way at an early age, they hear that child's voice. They're turning around going, oh, it's a kid. I'm going to get something. It's so fucked up. You have to push that dog past that point of distraction. You could even use whoa, but each one of these commands, Tonka, whoa. So each one of these commands, right, like say it'd be the same thing. He's in the whoa position, I circle him, right? I do that for a month. The dog's real stable with me. And then I'm like, okay, little Johnny, walk in the room and walk 5 feet past Tonka. Tonka has to stay in that position. If Tonka can't stay, oh, by the way, if you're doing this and you have a puppy, there's all kinds of birds around here. This bird dog. Tonka, sit. If you're working your dog, your puppy, and you think you're training the dog, your puppy, and you don't have a leash on the dog in the house, you're a fucking idiot. You shouldn't have that dog. You're not using any common sense whatsoever. That's what we're talking about, common sense. If you give the dog food, it gets excited when it sees food. That's like the kid interacting with the dog. They're getting something for nothing. Unearned affection. It'll just make your dog into a blathering idiot. And puppies have ADD and have impulse control issues. You're just knocking on the door of just, something bad happening with the dog. Kids and dogs aren't so hot. I say this all the time. It's not such a great situation. Dog trainers that I know don't seem to have the problems that the homeowner does that wants to have a dog. It's always the same thing. I think dog trainers have a tendency to be more controlling for sure. And when you're talking about a dog, it's trained commands. That's how your dog should be functioning. I mean, so many dogs just screw up instinctually. Like the kid's running through the house. It excites the dog, and the dog's real mouthy, and all of a sudden it bites the kid. There it goes, its first bite. Most states have like a, no, sit, have a bite law where if there's 3 bites, the dog gets put down. It's nonsense. Then, I'm telling you, once you start getting the dog stable, then you would bring in other things, like say, this is an exercise my dad would do, right? Where he'd have me taking a bumper like this and just swinging it around, right? I don't throw it, I'm just swinging it around or jumping around up and down. The dog needs to stay, you know. The dog needs to stay. Just because I have this doesn't mean I'm going to throw it. And you're taking the kid and, you know, you're interjecting another form of excitement, visual and a retrieving item. But you build the dog up to that. You don't just throw everything out the window, you know. Oh, the dog will be fine. He'll grow out of it. No, he won't. He'll grow into it. That's my point. Your dog's general behavior, right? If your dog's generally excited all the time, that's going to be the dog you're going to have. You're training the dog to be excited. Do you understand? Don't exacerbate excitement. It's just nonsense. It's total nonsense. It's nonsense. People want to have a dog, but there's more to having a dog than just loving it. Love is not enough for the dog. And if you have kids involved and you're thinking about getting a dog, I say don't. You want extra work? Is that what you want? You sign a contract with that dog. That's true. You sign a contract with any animal that you get. You can't, I've had people say, this is true, I had somebody that I was doing, this is back in the day when I do private lessons, and they said something like, well, if it doesn't go good, we'll just take it to, you know, so-and-so's mom's house and it can live in the backyard. And I said, you know what, I don't want to deal with you anymore. You sound like a horrible person. The person wasn't doing anything I told them, you know? And then they mentioned that. Like there's nothing worse than doing private lessons and then you go over and then you find out that they're not even doing them. They think that paying for the private lessons, that they don't have to work and shit. That dog is a tremendous amount of work. That one in particular. Now I'm gonna do a video later with dogs that aren't a tremendous amount of work. You know, this is a hyperactive dog. He's constantly on the go. But I'm going to do a video later about dogs that don't need a tremendous amount of work. But you never, Tonka, get that, brother. You never know what you're going to get. Sort of. Like if you get like one of these breeds. Tonka, get over here, dummy. Tonka, heel. Drop. If you get one of these dogs that's known to be excitable, Labrador, some of these GSPs are like Tonka, you know, really hyperactive. You know, I had somebody contact me recently with a GSP puppy, Tonka, and she's describing the problems that she was having with the puppy. And I'm like, oh, she's got a dog that's bred to be like Tonka, and she's got 2 young children. How stupid are you? That's what I'm saying. And you're looking for a solution like I have a magic wand. My magic wand is this. It's some advice. If you have a dog, a young dog, is you better train the shit out of it, and you better train it so that it's respectful to you, and then you need to make sure that it's respectful to your children. If that dog is jumping up and down, acting excited, and not listening to you, it's not only being disrespectful to you, it's being disrespectful to your children, and that dog will be in danger. Absolutely. Every dog trainer that I know that has kids, all my friends are obedience trainers. They're all about control with the dog. They're all about making sure that the dogs aren't running around acting like assholes around the kids, and the kids are not interacting with the dogs improperly. If they're petting the excited dog at any time, that's nonsense. And this other thing, this is a general thing that people ask. Well, when can I play with the dog? And a lot of times what they're saying is, when can I get on the ground and wrestle with the dog? Never, dummy. Get up off the ground. You're hand wrestling with the dog. You'll turn the dog into a biter. You're challenging the dog. You're going down on the dog's level. The dog's level. Wrestling with the dog. You never let your children do that, ever, okay? The kids need to stand up. They don't go on the ground and play with the dog. All right? And the other thing that I constantly hear from people is, well, when can I pet the dog? When the dog's calm. When it's sitting. And really, what is this nonsense about, well, I want to pet the dog? Because you get an oxytocin surge when you do that. It totally exists. There's studies done. Dogs get an oxytocin surge if we pet them, and we get the same oxytocin surge by petting them. So that's what that's about. That's about nonsense. Oh, you want the dog to like something? Go do retrieves with the motherfucking dog. Go make the dog sit. Go make the dog... They like doing that. They do. They like doing that. You don't just, oh, I was just going to pet my dog, you know. I'm not saying that I won't pet a dog. I do. But that's not going to be helpful if you pet the dog indiscriminately. It's the worst thing. Letting a stranger pet your dog? You're out of your fucking mind, you people that think that that's socializing the dog. You're conditioning the dog to be a freak around strangers. That's it. And children are not so good with dogs. They aren't. The best you can do is just make sure that you're in control and start teaching the child not to interact with the dog when it's excited, okay? And over time, you could start getting the dog to say commands and getting the dog, if the dog's functioning good, and you've been doing it a while, like I have a friend who's got like a 3-year-old shepherd, and now if the kid says heel, you'll see this with many dog trainers, dogs, like, and their kids. They can get the dog to heel with the kid, but they didn't do that overnight. That's a series of steps. You don't just, okay, I've been working with the dog for a couple months. I'm gonna see if it'll heel with my kid. Are you fucking kidding me? Don't put that leash in that kid's hand. You're gonna have the dog start dragging the kid around. I see that in Brooklyn all the time. It'll be a family. Husband and wife, and they got a pit on not even a leash, it's a chain. And they're walking down the motherfucking street with the kid out in front of them. They're walking behind, right? The husband and the wife. The kid's out in front, being drugged like this, being drugged by the dog. And there's this smile on the parent's face, like, oh, isn't that cute? The young pit's dragging our kid around. How long do you think that dog stayed in that house? Tell you what, I don't see those people, the people in my neighborhood that were doing that. I don't see that dog anymore. You gotta be fucking kidding me. What is the matter with you people? Take it from a dog trainer that knows dog trainers with kids, and I was a kid and my dad trained dogs. You do not approach it like this. You get the dog stable, and then you bring the kids in. Don't at any point, when you get that puppy, let the dog jump on these children at any time. The dog remembers that. You're training the dog to be a dick around the kids and be disrespectful to the kids. You get the dog is, if the dog's not healing for you, it's certainly not going to heal for the kids. You need to get that dog stable, and that's it. If you can't do that, you need to start thinking about doing something different with the dog, meaning find it a home. It's not all just fun and games with the dog. That's the point, is dog training's hard work. And if you can't take a logical approach about it and you're getting kids, and you think it's okay that the dog goes to a backyard, or that you have in the back of your mind that, well, we'll find a home for Fido or whatever. That sucks. You signed the contract, you know, work that dog and start bringing the kids in slowly. When the puppies are real young, just keep the kids fucking away from the dog, because you're not gonna be able to get anywhere with that dog until it's about 4 months old. Don't start scolding the dog heavy when it's under 4 months. Don't use any pressure. It has to be a certain age to be able to comprehend everything, okay? And as your dog gets older and you keep training it, it goes smoother. But you have to keep up with training, and I cannot stress this enough. Training is the lifetime of the dog. You think that the highly trained dogs that work in the military and the DEA or wherever they're working, wherever we have working dogs, guide dogs, wherever, you think that they're trained and then that's it? No. Training's the lifetime of the dog. The bomb-sniffing dog, they work that dog every day. They train the dog every day. Every day that dog is trained. It's professionally trained. So you with the house dog, you better find a few minutes to train your dog for its lifetime. I'm not saying that... Oh, he's going after a bird. I'm not saying that you don't do less training when the dog gets older. You do. And even like my dog Ike, he's pretty much retired. But you keep working with the dog as you go. And for God's sakes, don't let the children interact with the dog when it's excited. The dog needs to be sitting or in the down position or something, not rolling around excited and the kids are petting it. If it's belly up or something, you know, it could just as easily start doing this and acting excited. As soon as you see that excitement in the dog, you stop petting it and ignore it, put it at sit. Same thing, if you see the kids interacting with the dog and the dog is getting excited, leave, you know, Fluffy alone. Leave the dog alone. It's your responsibility as the adult and the dog owner. You got the dog, okay? You got the dog. You can't push it off on them. Remember that. All of the stuff that needs to be done with the dog is done by an adult. A child cannot have a dog, really. Anytime, I worked at animal shelters too, and anytime somebody came in and said, I want to get a dog for my kid, that was a reason not to adopt the dog out, unless they understood that all stuff needed to be done by the adult. Because you might have a kid that's 12 that like will even feed the dog or whatever, but as soon as that kid is 15 or 16 and is interested in boys or girls, they don't want to do it anymore. It's not even worth it. Do you understand? It's a lot of responsibility to take care of a dog. Children don't have it. They don't. You might be able to get them involved, but they don't have it. Just remember this, that excitement is the point where all dogs make mistakes. They bark, lunge, bite, or just don't listen. You want to train your dog in a calm setting and introduce it to excitement. You don't just take the dog out and say, I'm going to do it in the most exciting area I can find with a lot of visual excitement and noise and stuff and start training the dog. That's going to just make matters worse. Your dog's going to function lousy. It's a lot of muscle memory, so you take it in a calm area, you take it to the same place every day and get it to function. It's repetition. It's sitting. It sits. It sits. Hundreds of times. And then you bring in a little bit of excitement. And that little bit of excitement could just be your kid walking by from 15 or 20 feet. Then you start bringing the kid in. If there's too much excitement, you go back to the basics and you make the dog sit longer without that visual excitement or whatever the excitement is. You keep working the dog until it's just ingrained into the dog You say sit, the dog's sitting. It knows it's not supposed to move, okay? Children and kids, you have kids, you want to get a dog, that's your mistake. Seriously. I am going to do a video of like 2 dogs that are here that have great energy levels because they're not like Tonka. They're not like Tonka. They're not hyperactive. And that's Bella and Mango. You don't need to have the dog jumping around. You don't. This is a great kind of dog to have, and I think that the problem with our society is that that's what people think, that like the dog that's jumping around is the happy dog. Zach George says that they're the smartest kind of dog, the excited dog. No, idiot. They're excited. A calm dog can be just as happy as an excited dog. It's absurd. But the calm dog is the easiest dog to work with. That's why you want to make sure your dog is as calm as possible and you're not conditioning it to be excited. Hi, Tonka. How you doing? Here. Okay, go get it, brother. All right?